It is very important for your success in this class to memorize this formula. This is called the quadratic formula. So you can see here, memorize, memorize, okay? Whatever it takes. So when I was in Algebra 2 in high school, my teacher taught me this to the Notre Dame fight song. Why the Notre Dame fight song? I don't know. I guess she liked Notre Dame. So I'm going to sing it for you. It's not going to be pretty, but whatever helps you. Next time I'll have someone who can sing better do this. Okay, so she did it like this. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. You're welcome. Hopefully you have not turned the video off yet. So where do these letters come from? From a quadratic equation. The a, of course, is the lead coefficient. So if it's just 1, if you don't see one there, you know it's 1. So that goes in right here and right here. B becomes a negative b, and you also put b squared here. And then the c goes right here. So it's negative b, or the opposite of b. If you had a minus b here, this would become plus. If it was a positive b, this would be minus. And then it's plus or minus, because when we take square roots, we always get two answers, a positive and a negative. B squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. All right, let's try this. Here we go. Did you get that written down? Great. Hopefully it's in your head by now. You can make up your own song. Okay, so my formula. Negative b, so that means 10. The square root of b squared, so that's 10 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 2. So 4ac, 4 times 1 times 2, all divided by 2a. Alright, so now let's work this out. I have negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus 8, all divided by 2. Alright, so now I need to see if 92 can be broken down. So if you remember, if you're trying to simplify a square root, you can make a factor tree here. So that would be 46 times 2 and 23 times 2. So I can rewrite this as negative 10 plus or minus 2 root 23 over 2. Now this 2 goes to both parts of this, so I'm going to divide both parts by 2. So it's going to become negative 5 plus or minus, and these 2's can cancel each other out. So the square root of 23. So those are the answers to this quadratic equation. So it can't be solved by factoring, because you would say it's prime, it doesn't have any factors. And then also, it's not going to be, you can't use the square root property, and so therefore a great method is to use the quadratic formula, and you get this answer. The roots are negative 5 plus root 23 and negative 5 minus root 23. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so if I look at this, I couldn't factor it because I multiply those and I get a 4. Two things that multiply to make 4 but add to get negative 1. That's not going to work. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so x equals negative b. So b is negative 1. So if I have negative negative 1, it's 1. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 1, minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So this is going to be 1 minus 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay, so look what happens here. Now I'm stuck with a negative square root, so what happens? The complex numbers come back in, okay? So you knew those were coming back eventually. So I'm going to simplify this. And just like with imaginary numbers, remember I split them into two parts. So it's 1/4 plus or minus I root 15 over 4. Okay, so there's my answer. And you can write it just like that. Those are your two answers. All right. One more thing. The discriminant is this pink part underneath the square root. So the discriminant is just the b squared minus 4ac. So if you just take that out, that can actually help you to determine how many real roots you have. Okay, so if we want to know how many real roots, if you calculate b squared minus 4ac and it gives you something that's greater than 0, it means you have two real roots. In other words, there's two definite x-intercepts. However, if you actually get 0 when you do b squared minus 4ac, it means you have one real root, and the equation, when it's graphed, will look something like this. So it just touches the line once. If you get something that is less than 0, you actually have 0 real roots, and that's when you come up with two imaginary roots. So 0 real roots is the same as 2 imaginary roots. And it would look like that, so it wouldn't go through there at all. Okay, so let's actually try this. So we're not going to calculate the answers, we're just going to find out how many roots it is based on the discriminant. So first of all, put this into standard form. And now I just want to do the b squared minus 4ac. So b squared would be 36. So that would be 36 minus 28. And that is going to be greater than 0. So it has two real roots. All right, let's try this one. Put it in standard form. B squared, so 36, minus 4ac. So this time I have 36 minus 36, so that equals 0. So that's one real root. Last but not least, put it in standard form. All right, b squared minus 4ac, so 36 minus 4. And that's going to be a negative number. So if I have a negative number under a square root symbol, that then turns imaginary. So this is going to be 0 real roots, which remember that 0 real roots is going to be 2 imaginary roots.